What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic, and I have a collection update for you. So this one comes kind of soon after the last one, but it was pretty much because when I got that nice little gift package from the crypt, which I am very, very, very thankful for. Thank you again, Metal Mania. I was also halfway through another stack of stuff that I had just bought. So well, it still sounds like I've been listening to a lot of music because I have, but this was kind of halfway done before, so we're getting to it now. Now, I am wearing a hoodie this time just because with as hot as it's been, I've turned on the AC and I want to keep it nice and cool upstairs, but that means downstairs here in this basement, it is cold enough to almost hang meat in. So it is a little frosty. I can't see my breath yet, and that would probably take a few more adjustments, but I'm not going to go that far because I don't want to freeze to death down here. But I do have a really cool update here. I got a nice package from Invictus Records, which is all the way from Ireland. They have a really cool distro, and I found some cool stuff that I was missing. And I also got another gift from another YouTuber out there, and I will bring that one up when I get to it, but lots of cool stuff. Let's get into it. Angelcorpse The Inexorable. This is their third album, came out in 1999. This was a blackened death metal band from Kansas City, and I can pretty much just say this is Angelcorpse, and I think most people that know this band will be like, oh yeah, that's fucking incredible. You'd be right. But I am going to go into it just a little bit for those that don't know. This is an amazing blackened death metal band that is high speed and just aggressive as hell. Like, this is probably one of my favorite blackened death metal bands. The first time I ever heard this band was courtesy of a compilation with the song Smoldering Exile on it, and I was absolutely hooked. This album features Tony Laureano from Nile. I believe he's also in Insidious Disease as well on drums, and my god, it's just insane turnovers, blast beats. I don't know if I could call this blackened Morbid Angel or Death Marduk. Their main songwriter, Paolo Bicchi, I can't remember if his name is Gene or Paul on here, and I was actually thumbing through this and I couldn't find out. Either way, he is the guy at the helm of Perdition Temple, which is very much a continuation of this, if not more aggressive and more blackened. But this is pretty much where it all started for me as far as Angelcorpse. I was hooked on this band the second I heard this song on here, Smoldering Exile. Finally having this album, this might be my favorite one just because after hearing that song, I did jam this entire album online, and I had to have it. It's amazing. If you love some of the most aggressive blackened death metal there is on the planet, it might be this album, at least in my opinion. I absolutely love this. The riff work's killer. Every little bit of this is killer. It's fast, it's aggressive. Still some nice groovy pockets, but this is pretty much foot on the gas the entire time, and if you love that style, you should definitely check this out. Burial, Relinquished Souls. This is the lone studio album from this Dutch death metal band, came out in 1993. This is the 2015 reissue on Memento Mori, and I had heard about this band, and I've been meaning to check them out. Being a big fan of Gorefest, you know, looking into all the other Dutch death metal bands that came out, this band often came up, and this album is fantastic. Very similar to Gorefest, also Pestilence in that sense. It's very thrashy, very squealy lead tone on here. A lot of the riffs on here, very reminiscent of Tampa death metal, namely Death and Obituary. But I love the big bolt thrower grooves that are on here, a little bit of Benediction. Really dig this. And being a lone studio album and by an underground band, I kind of want to save most of my descriptors for the retro review that I want to do in the future on this, because this is an absolutely killer album. This also includes their Frigid Cold demo, which all the songs that are on the full length are actually on the demo, so you can hear the original versions, which are definitely a bit rougher, and they do have slightly different titles. The song Untimely Demise, on the demo it is Perpetual Demise. Don't know why they changed it. I mean, both names were really good. Either way, I definitely want to save this for a retro review because I really enjoyed this, and I love old school 90s death metal, and this is exactly what it is. So if you dig that sort of thing, definitely check this out because, again, like always, there will be links to all this music in the description, so definitely check this one out. Butcher, 666 goats carry my chariot. It seems like he only needs about 6, but it's good to have spares. This is the second album from this Belgian blackened speed metal / thrash band, and it is so gloriously over the top that I couldn't help but to love it. The music is hyper aggressive but well written. I really like just how much they embody old school speed metal and the riffing. The vocals are just nuts. I don't like King Diamond, but I appreciate his over-the-topness, and of course I respect him for all the stuff that he's done for metal. This guy is definitely a fan, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Vulture, but this guy is a little bit more predictable. You can tell where the whales are coming versus Vulture, where it can be a bit of a surprise. This guy also has a very like shrill scream, but then it can just turn into this giant 80s wail, like again, kind of King Diamond, but also a little bit of Rob Halford in there. Loads of great harmonies on here, and I love the songwriting on here, particularly the title track, which is over 9 minutes and is just absolutely amazing. Like Iron Maiden level melodies and just big hooks, and God, man, it's just an epic song. But this whole album is just plain fun to listen to, and they don't really take themselves that serious with songs like Iron Bitch, 45 RPM metal. That is apparently the speed you're supposed to listen to this at if you have it on vinyl. Metal Scrum, Face the Butcher. I wonder who they're referencing there. It's just flat out fun to listen to. It's super energetic. Might be a little bit out of my wheelhouse, a bit on the vocals, but I enjoyed the music so much and the songwriting that it really just didn't matter at a certain point. It was just fun to listen to. Definitely recommend checking this out. It's just fun, campy, quasi-satanic fun. Who doesn't love that? Check it out. Coffin Curse, Gathered Unto Death. This is the debut EP from this Chilean two-man death metal act. And this is fiercely old school death metal. I actually purchased their debut full length not too long ago, Cease to Be, and I absolutely loved it. Fierce bloodbath vibes all throughout. Get more of that here, though I have to say the production is a little bit different. They don't go for the Swedish death metal sound, but it's fiercely old school death metal, kind of like in a general sense. Like pretty much has that Tampa sound, but also a little bit of Swedish death metal in there. Very murky, muddy production, except for the vocals. The vocals seem a lot more clear than everything else. I do like the fact that they kind of stepped up the production a bit more on the full length, but this still sounds really good. Loads of thrashy, catchy riffs on here. The last two tracks in here, I think, are just absolutely amazing. Out of the Grave and Perverted by the Unknown. Both of these songs just absolutely rip my face off, metaphorically. But I just really got into this. But anyone that knows me knows I love old school death metal, and old school death metal with those really clever harmonies, those creepy evil ones, these guys have it. And there are loads of Coffin bands out there. I have tons of them. There's pretty much an entire section of my CD collection dedicated to Coffin bands. This is one of the Coffin bands I think really stands out. I enjoyed their full length, I enjoyed this EP, and I'm definitely on the hunt for more stuff by them because they are flat out awesome. So if you love old school death metal and you like just furious, awesome riffs and shit, definitely check this out. Cruciamentum, Convocation of Crawling Chaos. This is this UK death metal act's second demo, came out in 2009, and I am a giant fan of this band ever since I picked up Charnel Passages years ago. I absolutely loved the cavernous, disgusting sound that they create. It's so riff-laden, and this is kind of where that starts. I like the fact that this one is less atmospheric than, say, their later material, because it just gives a chance for all the heft to come through, because that is the mission statement on this, is just to be as heavy as possible, and goddamn, it's very Morbid Angelish, and I love that. The guitar tone is raw as hell, snarls. I want to say there's like a little bit of like that HM2 sort of like, you know, crackling, you know, buzzsaw tone to it, but it's very murky too, so like a little bit more on like the incantation side too. I love their tomb mold sort of riff-a-minute style, but man, when they decide to bring in a disgusting breakdown, namely the last track, Rotten Flesh Crucifix, which, man, that is a great title. My God, it is one of the heaviest moments on this entire demo, which is just loaded with heavy moments. Literally all 4 songs in here absolutely whoop ass. I strongly recommend getting anything you can by this band. I'm waiting patiently to see if they put out another full length, because Charnel Passages was absolutely amazing, and I have the EP that came before it or after it, I'm really not sure. And I know they have a single, but I believe it's only on a 7-inch, so I just have to patiently wait to see if they decide to throw on some other tracks and make that an EP, or throw it on the new album. I don't know. Hopefully there's a new album coming out, because I need more of this, because this band is absolutely incredible and you should check them out. Mortuous, Among the Lost, Mors Immortalis. Now this is a compilation from this California death metal band of their first 2 demos. Now this band also features members of Acephalix, Necrotic, and Vastum, all pretty solid death metal acts that got together and formed yet another death metal band. Now the first 6 tracks in here are the Among the Lost demo, and then the remaining 4 tracks on here are the Mors Immortalis demo. Now the Among the Lost one is their second demo, and this one's really good. I really like the production on it. It's very raw. It kind of sounds like what you would expect from, Pacific Coast death metal acts, very incantation meets autopsy, riff laden as hell, dirty sounding guitars on here. I really dug that. Very Glenn Benton-ish growls, and I have to say the song The Eternal Return is just flat out death doom with some really nasty harmonies on it. Now the Mors Immortalis one is their first demo, and that one's pretty rough. Now it pretty much has all the same songs. Granted, I like the fact that they re-recorded them with better production, because this production sounded like they set up a tape deck in a garage and just hit record and played. It's very much almost kind of like a live one-shot, let's record this all and get it out, which, yeah, it has its appeal. Just hearing the band have the confidence to just go through and record all that stuff at once, if that was in fact what they did, that is definitely what it sounds like. But the quality is really poor on it compared to the second demo. And I think the first demo, the songs are a little bit more raw in terms of the songwriting, because I think there's some slight differences in the same songs on the second demo. So pretty much I'd recommend the second demo entirely, like the whole thing. It's absolutely amazing. First demo, I mean, definitely check it out. Check out all this stuff, but I really dug the first 6 tracks in here. This is absolutely amazing stuff. Their full-length album that came out not too long ago was also incredible too. So if you've never checked out this band, check out this. Check out the full length for sure. But yeah, solid stuff. Gritty, old school, underground, disgusting death metal. That sounds like fun to me. Hopefully it sounds like fun to you. Check it out. Monster Magnet, A Better Dystopia. Now this one kind of caught me off guard. I thought this was actually a new studio album from Monster Magnet, and technically it is, but this is a covers album. But the reason I didn't know it was a covers album is because most of these songs I did not know, because these are really underground bands that heavily influenced Monster Magnet, which these guys are stoner metal, stoner rock vets. They've been doing this shit for forever now. As far as the bands I knew in here, I knew the song Born to Go, that's a Hawkwind song, and Be Forewarned by Pentagram. The rest of this, I did not know. And there's a lot of obscure bands on here like Dust, The Scientists, Table Scraps. I'm not familiar with any of them. So I think a lot of this is a journey through Dave Windorf's record collection, and from the sounds of it, he collected a lot of cool stuff. A lot of this screams like the late 60s, early 70s sort of counterculture, maybe like a little bit heavier than your standard like hippie movement stuff. Like this was like the headier stuff that was more underground. And the way it's recorded and produced, I think, is really well. It really captures the feel. It's very much a modern recording, but it has all those nods to like old school analog sounds and stuff like that. I really enjoyed the overall vibe of this, and they cover the songs really well. The spacey, trippy stuff that's all over there, the really fuzzy guitars, the really strange intro, the Diamond Mine, which has Dave ranting about something that doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me, but maybe I'm not under the right kind of influence to really get that. I don't know. Apparently it is by a band called Moan and Scream, and I don't know. It's weird. It sounds like acid-drenched poetry. Beats me, but it kind of makes sense for Monster Magnet, so yeah. But I ended up really digging this, and it's just kind of a strange release, which, I mean, you could say that about a lot of Monster Magnet stuff, but this one was a lot of fun, and I don't know, I wouldn't mind hearing them actually play a lot of these songs live, because I think it'd be really fun. Either way, if you love Monster Magnet, definitely check this out, and if you just love weird stoner rock, space rock, whatever, check this out. These are some solid nods to some bands that I don't know, but a couple of them. Most of them know, though. Check it out. Either way, it's good. Alright, we have a split album here from Old Nick and Hexclock. Now, this is actually one that was sent to me courtesy of Scotanic One's Metal Dungeon. He sent me this just because he wanted to know my take on it, and these are both very underground, raw black metal projects, and I think they're both one-man projects. They're both very similar. Old Nick is probably the stranger of the two. They're both kind of strange. Old Nick is dungeon synth mixed with raw one-man black metal, so very obvious drum machine, very staticky guitars. The music is odd. I'm not sure if I like it or not, and that's kind of the odd thing there, because there are some really catchy riffs on there. You hear this like sort of shrill static howl in the background, and these strange keyboards. These keyboards that almost sound poppy, but the riffs sound like, you know, early Darkthrone. It's a very strange listen. Hexclock feels like it's a little bit more put together, I guess. I think the production's slightly better, at least in this one. I think the bass drum actually kind of cut through a bit, so there's not just this sort of lackluster thwack. But musically, I think that one's more riff-driven, and again, the hooks for both of these are just strange. I'm not entirely sure if this is the same guy with two different characters, maybe? I don't know. I literally know nothing about this, and looking it up, there is some stuff for Old Nick, but this is literally the first thing that Hexclock has ever put out. And as far as background, there really wasn't much I could find. I think one of the odd things about kind of both of them is maybe that sort of use of major chords, like the happy chords. Certainly the major chords sound happier than, well, most of the metal stuff we hear. And I don't know, that just makes it even odder. But this is an interesting release. I'm going to go back to it more, but I definitely wanted to get a good run through on this and take some notes, which I definitely did. And, well, Scott, you sent me quite an oddity, and I don't know how to necessarily describe it because this is kind of outside of my wheelhouse. But there's some stuff in here I really liked. So thank you again for sending me this, and yeah, definitely check this out. It's different. It's very different, at least for me it is. Either way, check it out. Satyricon, Dark Medieval Times. Now this originally came out in 1994, debut album from Satyricon, but this is the 2021 reissue on Moonfog through Napalm Records, and this, I believe, is the only Satyricon I've been missing. I just hadn't got around to getting it. And I had listened to this before. I love this album. It's very folky. This is probably one of the more folkier ones. I'm a bigger fan of Nemesis Divina, which is more straightforward black metal. Not saying that this isn't. This is still raw, but very melodic. I always like that about them in terms of just their wide range of black metal sounds, because they play a lot of different shit here lately. They always were good at hooks and melodies, and granted these are far more raw, but they're really good. This has a distinctly folky sound to it. I'm not the biggest fan of folk, but for some odd reason it just sort of works here for me. Namely because the contrast between those folky clean moments and the raw heavy moments are really, really good. That really made this stand out, at least from a lot of the early 90s black metal. They weren't all just about the creepy atmosphere and the rawness and that whole aesthetic. They really were solid songwriters. They knew how to craft riffs and melodies, and that really stood out to me. It's a solid remaster too. It still sounds raw as hell, but it just sounds maybe a little bit cleaned up, and you know, the volume boosted up. It might take away some of the lo-fi edge if you really enjoy the old school lo-fi sound. I like it just a little bit more polished and a little bit more dynamic range, and this delivers that. Anyway, it's good to finally have this one. I really dig it. If you've never jammed this one, this is, I would say, a black metal classic, so yeah, definitely check this one out. Stormruler, Under the Burning Eclipse. This is the debut album from this two-man St. Louis black metal act. I thought these guys were European because literally everything about this sounds like a better produced 90s Norwegian black metal sound. But nope, they're from St. Louis. The drummer has actually played in Scour, and he's the current drummer of Cast of Stone, which is a side project that features members of Misery Index and ex-members of Cattle Decap. Anyway, this is some awesome black metal that was on my radar, and I was reminded of it courtesy of Forge Master Reviews. They actually did a Bandcamp or best of last month. I'm not entirely sure which one they did, but they brought this up and I was reminded, oh yeah, I really did dig that. Now, this is their debut album. They have no demos, they have no EPs. They started right out of the gate with an LP, and this is, first off, a very long album. It's over an hour, but there's also a reason for it, because between every single track, there is an interlude. Now, granted, I like atmosphere, especially with black metal. That's a little bit much, because literally I think there is enough on there to make 2 songs, 3 songs maybe, I don't know. There's a lot, but they do fit well, and I can't necessarily knock them there, because my god, the songwriting in here is fantastic. This is really killer black metal. Again, old school Norwegian sound, just with better production. There's a lot of stuff on here that reminds me of Immortal in terms of that big, just dynamic, you know, At Winter's Gate sound, and that is one of my favorite black metal albums, so yeah, they got me there. Loads of dynamics. This isn't just a static blast throughout. I mean, there are plenty of blast beats, but there are loads of just breakdowns, different clean sections. The vocals pretty much always stay in a nice little, you know, Norwegian black metal shriek. But the really interesting thing about this, and Forge Masters did bring this up, and I kind of thought that was interesting when I saw the music video for whichever song they put out a video for. They have a theme that is more power metal-ish. It's kind of castles and kings and war and maybe goblins, demons, dragons. It doesn't feel like your typical black metal theme. It doesn't talk about like Satan and burning churches or, you know, darkness and blah blah blah. This is more along the lines of like Dio, not musically, obviously, but thematically, and that is kind of an interesting thing with this. I really dug this album. Now, granted, I took out all of the interludes on my phone when I transferred it over, because I don't need that coming up all the time, especially if it's on random and I'll just get a interlude like, oh well, that was, you know, 35 seconds of something and then on to a song that's completely unrelated. That kind of bugs me. But the songs on here are absolutely fantastic, especially the title track. The title track just whoops so much ass. Definitely check this band out. It's a little maybe overdone as far as all the atmospheric elements, but my god, these guys are killer songwriters, and this is just flat out banger after banger after you get in between all the other tracks. Fun stuff. Definitely check it out. I dig it. Vreid, Wild Northwest. This is the 9th album from this melodic black metal band, formed from the ashes of Windeer, which broke up in 2004 after their frontman sadly died. Vreid pretty much carried the torch and kept it rolling with their very distinct melodic black metal sound, though I think this one is a little bit different. Vreid has been going through some like changes in terms of their sound. I believe the last one, Life Hunger, was a little bit more, I don't know, like black and roll, black and thrash in spots. It's a little bit different. It doesn't feel straight up black metal anymore, and most of this is a very mid-tempo sort of, I don't know, like gothic black and roll. I like it, but I don't like it as much as their earlier stuff, which was really what hooked me into the band. They had great melodic hooks, but there was still a lot of just ferocious blackened brutality to it. I really just dug that. That is a little bit more sparing on here. The production is a little bit different. It's strange to hear the bass so prominent on here, but the thing that I thought was kind of strange, and I don't think it was executed as well, were the clean vocals. They're kind of flat and they try to harmonize them, which it's another flat voice on top of that. It really didn't deliver the big vocal hook that you would want for a big melodic moment. And as much as I liked songs like Spikes of God and Shadows of Aurora, which I thought really brought up the energy in here, a lot of the energy is kind of flat, unfortunately. It's very atmospheric, it's very lush, and somehow it just did not grip me as much. I'm still getting used to the change in the sound. It may take a few more listens for me to really get into this, but this one didn't really grab me the way previous albums did. But still, I recommend checking it out and forming your own opinions. This is just mine, but yeah, check it out. I may not be that into it, but who knows, this might be your new favorite album by them. So yeah, check it out. Drain, California Cursed. This is the debut album from this crossover slash hardcore band from California. And this is actually one that Shred showed me. He asked me if I had heard this band that he had been jamming and played them for me. I was like, wow, dude, this is really good. And these guys sort of fit in that, next tier of crossover that's been coming out with bands like Enforced and Power Trip. And it's good to hear that sound just keep coming out. These guys are a little bit more hardcore focused. This is Groove City, Breakdown City. These guys will palm you, chug you to death. And this album almost convinced me that I can mosh again. I know I can't, or I know I shouldn't, just because it takes longer to heal now. But the energy on here, this whole album is a ball of kinetic energy. They only took one interlude track, and then the rest of this is just riffs, beatdowns, shrieked vocals with all the hostility in the world, and they even tell you that they are your friend. Now, if I get hurt being convinced that I can get in a pit, I don't know how good of friends they are, but I know this album is absolutely whoop ass. I pretty much loved every second on it. The production is, kind of compressed, but I kind of like it. The guitar tone has this great thrashy / hardcore chunky tone to it. I mean, it just has all that crunch that you're looking for in thrash. I dug the fuck out of it. It's a short release. Pretty much every track in here is a punch to the face or the gut. It's just awesome, and I dig the hell out of it. Definitely check this out. I definitely want to hear more by this band. I definitely want to see this band live. I'm just going to stay out of the pit because I'm old enough to know better. Maybe. Either way, definitely check this out. It's awesome. Cerebral Fix Bastards. This is the third album from this UK crossover thrash band. Came out in 1991, and this is literally the first Cerebral Fix album I have ever bought. I've been meaning to actually check this band out just because I knew Frank Healy, formerly of Napalm Death and Benediction, current bassist in Memoriam, is actually a part of this. And I may have started at the wrong point. I'm not entirely sure, but this really didn't give me big crossover vibes. This feels more groove metal-y. It may have something to do with me listening to this immediately after listening to that Drain CD, which, new school, old school. But the vibe on this, it's kind of missing the punk energy. A lot of the songs are still fast, but not like crossover thrash fast. And the songs are definitely longer with a lot more dynamics, which is good. I like that, but again, not what I was expecting. The song Beyond Jerusalem actually kind of caught me off guard because it almost goes kind of like Paradise Lost, Death Doom towards the end with some really doomy harmonies. And then Ritual Abuse has almost like some death-like tremolo riffs. Actually, it kind of reminds me of that first tremolo riff that's in Pull the Plug. Very similar to that. And then they close up this album with a couple of punk covers, which honestly felt like the most crossover thing on here. I like this, but again, this might have been the wrong starting point, but I saw this, I wanted to grab it, it was used, it was cheap, and it was there. And I've been looking for this band, so I got this. So I definitely want to get the earlier stuff, the first two albums namely, just to see what those sound like, and maybe see what they sound like now, because I think they put out an album as recently as 2017. So yeah, I definitely want to check those out. But yeah, this was interesting. I still think it's good. It's just not what I expected, so it kind of caught me off guard, but either way, check it out. Decapitated, The First Damned. Now this is a reissue of their first two demos, Cemetery Gardens from 97 and The Eye of Horus from 98. And, well, this is pretty much the origins of Decapitated. If you're unaware, they're a Polish death metal act, and they started off as teenagers. And, Jesus, the music on here is absolutely amazing. Now, granted, all of these songs, I believe all of these songs are on their debut album, Winds of Creation, which is a fantastic debut from these guys. I think they were 18 when they wrote it, and it's absolutely amazing. It's pretty much Suffocation levels of brutality and Vader's level of speed. But these are the original raw versions, and they sound really good. Different production on both demos. I kind of like the fact that on Cemetery Gardens, Soren actually sounds a little bit different on here. He usually has a very low roar, very Frank Mullins-esque. This one, it's kind of more mid-range, a little bit more gurgly and intelligible, but the mixes are a little bit different too. Like, you kind of have that more old school 90s, like 91 sort of sound on the first demo, but the second demo is a little bit more tightened up and a little bit more polished. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure this is a remaster of those demos, so they've probably cleaned them up a little bit, but it sounds awesome. And with Decapitated putting this out or reissuing it now, I'm hoping that's a sign that they're going to get back to the sound, because I've been missing that over the course of the last, we'll say 2 albums. Carnival is Forever was okay. The last 2 in particular, I just haven't connected with. Not like those earlier albums, like Nility is amazing, The Negation. Literally the first 4 albums, I absolutely love those, and it is really cool to hear the raw versions of this. And again, with the timeline, because I don't believe Winds of Creation came out till 2000, these guys were like 16. Remarkable, just incredible stuff. If you want to hear, again, those raw versions of the songs on Winds of Creation, if you're a fan of that album, you should be, it's really good. Definitely check this out then. It's awesome to actually hear this little window in time back when they were even fucking younger and writing some incredible death metal. So yeah, definitely check this out. This was an awesome pickup. And Decapitated, we want this again, please. Check it out though. Poison Speed, Quick and Dirty. This is a compilation of all the demos from this German heavy metal / speed metal act. And the CD version of this actually comes out on a Toledo label where I live. Morbid and Miserable Records. So I picked that one up literally based on that, but I mean, I like the sound of old school heavy metal and speed metal, so I wanted to check it out anyway. This sounds like Motorhead. It sounds really, really, really like Motorhead. Literally even down to the vocals. The vocals on here sound just like Lemmy. It has that Lemmy sound, the riffs scream Motorhead. There are some heavier, thrashier moments, maybe Rebellion of Human Garbage, which is a pretty solid title. There's some breakdowns in there that scream a little bit more thrash metal, you know, but this sounds like Motorhead. And if you don't believe me, there will be a link below in the description, and you will hear Motorhead, or at least a 2-man band doing Motorhead songs. Now, it's not as though that's a problem. I love Motorhead. Motorhead's amazing. It's just, I think this one hits a little too close to home, and you know, if that was the intention to just make some Motorhead songs, that's still awesome. And they did them well. They're well written, they're fun, they're as energetic as Motorhead songs should be. But for me, it's a little too close to just sounding like Motorhead, and that, I don't know, is a little bit of an issue. But still, I recommend checking it out if you like Motorhead. You will probably really like this. I mean, I like Motorhead and I did enjoy this. But honestly, I think I'd rather throw in some Motorhead just because that's the real deal. This is still really good though. I strongly recommend checking it out because it was still a lot of fun. Gosudar, Morbid, Despotic Ritual. This is the debut album from this Russian death metal band. Came out on Rotted Life Records. And man, Russia has some killer death metal bands right now, and this is another one for the list. This is fiercely old school death metal, really kind of navigates between just being riffy as hell, that very like tomb mold sound, Witch Vomit definitely reminded me of that, but straight into like Death Doom and cavernous territory like Incantation, Cerebral Rot, stuff like that. It's murky but mixed really well. God damn, these guys have some riffs. I mean, they are hooky as hell. And I really like the dynamics on here. It can switch gears on you very quickly, but the transitions are smooth. The song Prophecy Embodiment is pretty much like old Cannibal Corpse and Suffocation had a really ugly Russian baby and left it on a doorstep in Moscow because that is where they're from. And they grew up to be this. And it's interesting because I found out the name Gosudar, I guess, is a word for ruler or prince, and yeah, no, this definitely rules. It's not Prince though, there's only one Prince. But I loved every single track on here, and every track had something that I loved about it. The insanely creepy breakdown on Scripture of the Vile Testimony, which they are doing good work here in terms of song titles. But my God, it brings in this clean, creepy tone that is just haunting, but also just bludgeoning in terms of just the heaviness. Really dig this. I've had some other buddies of mine recommend this and say, dude, have you checked this out? I was like, no, I'm definitely looking for it though, because I've heard nothing but good things. And yeah, whoever recommended this to me was right. This is amazing. and year-end lists are going to be difficult because the more I jam this, the more I love it. So yeah, if that isn't a glowing review, definitely check this out. If you're a rabid death metal freak like me, oh my god, get it. Wharflurch Shitslime. This is the second EP from this Florida death metal band, and I was a huge fan of their Lurking Doom EP, which I brought up in a collection update, which didn't feel like it was that long ago. But I finally found this one, just kind of floating around in distros. And this is actually a reissue through Personal Records from this year. But this EP feels a little bit more centered on just flat out old school death metal. The previous one, I guess they were flirting with like a little bit of black metal in there in terms of the atmosphere. There is just a little bit of it in there. But this one is just straight up death metal, straight up riffs. The atmosphere is really cool and kind of creepy and unsettling, like 80s horror movie unsettling. I like the addition of some horror synths just as like an atmospheric thing, like they're not throughout every track. It's just like maybe a little bit here to intro the song or a little bit on the outro. 4 songs, it's only 15 minutes, but it's 15 awesome minutes of riffs and swampy vocals. I mean, it's Florida, there are swamps, and they may have recorded this there, and I dig it. I dig the hell out of it. And it's fun because I also get to make this joke again, because I think anyone that brings up this band should make this joke, because it's dumb, and I like it. But I dig this. I think it's an improvement over the last one. I loved Lurking Doom, but I like this one even more. So yeah, I'm game for whatever they release in the future. So definitely check this one out. And I have one more thing here that isn't a CD, but it is awesome. I had to pick it up. The Anthrax Among the Living graphic novel. I went to my local comic book store looking for gifts for some friends for their birthdays, and I knew this was out. And my comic book store, the guy that I go to, is a big metalhead, so I knew there was a chance this was out. And he literally just pretty much found me in the store like, hey, this is out, here it is, I know you're gonna get it. And he was right. Very predictable. This is absolutely awesome though. They wrote stories to every track on Among the Living, and they even got the rights to Judge Dredd, which I think that's absolutely awesome because of course you have to have I Am the Law in here. But yeah, it's really cool. It kind of runs like Heavy Metal Magazine, if anyone's a fan of those. It's very similar. It's like an anthology, lots of different stories, and lots of different writers on here. We have notable guys like Grant Morrison on here, but you also have input from Rob Zombie, Corey Taylor, as well as the band. I mean, Scott Ian and Frank Bello. The whole forward is done by Joey Belladonna, which is really cool. But you also have Gerard Way, which, yeah, he was in My Chem, but he also did Umbrella Academy, which is really good, and I guess his comic book work is really awesome. I really love this. I mean, this is one of my favorite thrash metal albums, so there was a good chance I was, but the stories are really good, and it's this kind of weird, dark sci-fi theme through most of it, and funny, weird, kind of horror-oriented. There's like some Lovecraftian stuff. I mean, they did take, you know, the opening track, of course, is about the stand, and they had some fun with that. But yeah, I really dug this. This is feeding both my metal addiction and my comic book addiction, which I've staved off for the most part up until right now. But yeah, if you haven't checked this out, definitely check it out. Anthrax rules, and so does this comic. It's good stuff. All right, well, that knocks out another collection update. I'm pretty much bone dry for new stuff until new stuff arrives. But we are working on a whole bunch of other stuff here, getting started on the Cannibal Corpse listening and taking of notes there, and it's going to be a very, very, very difficult ranking. Also, we do have shirts available now. It is official. We're not just wearing them in videos and not telling you about them. We actually have them for sale. All you have to do is contact us in our Gmail and make sure you use the word shirt, probably in all caps locks, and we will get back to you and get your size, get your information, and get one sent out to you. And of course, as always, we are on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, throw us a couple of bones and encourage us to keep making goofy content, because we throw a bunch of extra stuff on there too. Please feel free to click that link down below. And also, there will be another link there, as well as a whole bunch of links for music, for our giveaway. Once we hit 6,000 subs, we're going to give away a 4 CD stack, and I believe we're going to throw in a sticker in there now too. All you have to do is comment on the video for the giveaway and you are entered. I will use a randomizer once we hit 6,000 and I will announce a winner. And I really want someone to take this stack of CDs because there's a lot of really good stuff there. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We will catch you later.